Hey, everybody. Welcome to Old Fashioned Catholics. I'm Nick, and Kevin is not here. This is for the first time ever. He's going to be here in about 10 minutes, supposedly. And I told my wife before we started, I'm kind of nervous. I've never done anything without Kevin in my life. So we're just gonna go into a holding pattern for a little while until he gets here. Bill doesn't know how to do anything without Kevin as well. So really, he's the glue that holds us together.
I'm Kevinless right now. I feel like
Yeah.
an absence.
Yep. There's a
Real
hole in my heart.
absence.
But in the meantime, because we don't actually know, I mean, he should be about 10 minutes, but just in case, family matters happen, we'll just get started. If you don't know, if this is the first time you've ever tuned into Old Fashioned Catholics, it's just a couple of Catholic dads, husbands talking about life and drinking old fashions. We don't always drink old fashions, and more we drink less, but we're always drinking something. So we found that our show is best enjoyed if you have something to imbibe on. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, but usually about now in the editing, we would pause and we would let you go mix yourself a drink. And so today I have just my traditional paper plate and I am drinking 3 ounces of rye. It's really, really, it's poor product placement. It's not good rye. And and 1 sugar cube, 4 dashes of bitters, and then some ice tossed in there. We'll see how it goes. And so our guest today, we'll just move to that. Our guest today is not even a guest anymore. He's like a co-host after this is your 3rd appearance, Bill.
I'm like the other Kevin. I'm like other Kevin.
Yeah. You're like the frosty-haired Kevin. It's nice.
Frosty-haired Kevin. I'll take it.
I think I've told you that I'm very jealous of the gray hair. Oh my gosh.
I'm just so glad it wasn't like one gray strip down the middle because that would have been awkward.
Like Pepe Le Pew. So when did you go gray? Have you like young?
Oh my gosh. Well, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother went gray at 28 or so. She started going gray. Yeah. So I started going gray probably at 35, 36.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, started subtly, probably around then.
Was it when kids came along or no? Before that, after that?
Kids certainly aggravated it. Yeah. Yeah. I wish we could do like a time lapse, like as the babies started coming, before as the babies started coming, yeah, it would have been.
Yeah. When we moved to the Caribbean in 2011, I was blonde. I've always been a blonde my whole life. And we moved to the Caribbean and I got bleached out because of all the sun. And but we adopted the children. And when we got back to the States, I had 3 separate people, at different points in time, approach me and just quietly like, can I ask you, like, why are you dyeing your hair? And I was like, I'm not dyeing my hair. What? And they're like, well, it's really dark now. And I didn't get to go gray when the stress of kids came. I just went dark, and that's, I guess, not fair.
But you did like a Benjamin Button thing, like a reverse.
I did.
Weird.
So anyway, well, here's what we'll do. We'll just ask you first of all.
Sure.
What are you drinking?
Yes.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking not an old fashioned, though you introduced me to old fashions and I do love them. But tonight I'm having a pint of Murphy's Irish Stout brewed in County Cork.
In a Murphy's glass?
In a Murphy's. I just went all out. So my wife's got cousins in County Cork. And when we went to Ireland, soon after we were married, I tasted Murphy's for the first time. And I like it better than Guinness, Nick. I love Murphy's.
So we're going to head out for the night. It's been good. Thanks.
When we get together face to face, you're going to have a Murphy's and you're going to love it. I have a companion. This is a little dram of Ardbeg, which is an Islay single malt Scotch, 10 years old. So it's going to be a great night, Nick. A great night.
It's going to be great, isn't it?
It's going to be hammered and hoodied.
I just can't believe what you just said there, Bill, about liking Murphy's more. Is that common? Do Irish people like Murphy's more than Guinness?
Well, I mean, I'll have you know that Guinness, I don't want it to get ugly right now. Guinness is sort of the Protestant stout, and their location is now in London or so, headquarters. So they're actually not, although St. Patrick's Day, it's Guinness everywhere, they're actually now, I think, London-based. But Murphy's is the Catholic stout brewed in County Cork, Ireland, and remains to this day. God help us all. But, it's I love everyone, and I will drink Guinness, but I prefer Murphy's.
Well, now you've got me. I mean, not because of the Catholic Protestant thing, but I respect your opinion. I've had Murphy's, and I just always feel, you know what it was? It's probably because, when I turned 21, I didn't drink when I turned 21 for the entire year. I waited. I had never drank anything.
Wow.
And I waited until I was almost 22 because I knew we were going to the UK for spring break. And so I had my first taste of alcohol was a pint of Guinness in Dublin at a pub. And that might have just sort of like collapsed the wave function, and it was just, that's the thing for me now. So I don't know.
I can't blame you for that. That's a good story. I didn't drink until I was 23.
Okay.
I think I was 23, and the reason I think I put it off for so long is I was probably 11 years old, and we're at my grandma and grandpa's, and my grandpa Donaghy, Francis Donaghy, who was born in the States but moved back to Ireland with his family. He had an old Milwaukee's Best on the table there, and I was 11, and I said, "Grandpa, can I try your beer?" So my first taste of alcohol at 11 was Old Milwaukee's Best.
Oh,
which explains why I didn't drink till I was 23.
That's awesome. It's so gross, man.
Oh, this is disgusting.
That's crazy.
Yes, right.
Okay, so Murphy's is good then. That's good. That's cool.
It is very creamy. Taste of chocolate and coffee a little bit in there, subtle.
And the Scotch, because you're both, right? You're Scotch Irish.
Yes, my paternal grandmother grew up in Glasgow, Clydebank, Glasgow, Scotland. So we all picked up grandma's brogue. I kind of do more the Scotch brogue than I do the Irish, because my grandpa he joined the U.S. Army and he dropped his Irish accent. Sadly.
Was it a conscious thing?
I think it was. I'll have to ask my dad tomorrow. But yeah, I think it might have been. So yeah, he was Irish. They came over here. My grandpa was born here, but then they went back. And so Donaghy, northwest corner of Ireland, which is gorgeous, by the way. Highest sea cliffs in Europe are the Slieve League, Donaghy.
Huh.
Just a sheer drop. We've been, been. Yeah, my wife, Rebecca, and I, when we went to Ireland after we got married, we went all the way up to Donaghy. And it was amazing. I mean, you're hiking up, there's nobody, you're passing sheep, you get to the top and it drops like 600, 700 feet down. There's no railings. There's no Haagen-Dazs ice cream shops like in America. You'd have like railings and, it's just like, oh, there's the sea cliffs. It was beautiful.
The piles of bodies at the bottom.
So cool. All American tourists.
Yeah. Well, there would have been a fence if I wasn't.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, so other scripted questions so that we don't leave anything undone.
Oh, yes.
Then, honestly, truly, in all actuality, Bill, how was your day?
Just going to reach down deep in my gut and pull out the answer right now.
Pull out the Murphys.
It was a good day. It was a good day. Not to say it wasn't a roller coaster from getting the kids up in the morning and getting them off to school, and a full schedule and back and forth, but all around good day. Good weather, beautiful warm day in the 60s today. Had a wonderful staff meeting with the Theology of the Body Institute. Our staff is phenomenal. I praise God for them. They're a family, and our staff meetings consist of 45 minutes of prayer, basically, and about 15 minutes of business.
Nice.
Great. So I had a good day. I feel really good today. I feel grounded again.
Good. That's awesome.
How about yourself?
It was
Can
great.
I ask you? Great.
You can. Grand. It was grand. It was good. It's everything it should be. It was Wednesdays are Jacelyn's day off, and so I get to be with her all day, and the two little ones are home, and it was good. Nothing stood out hugely. It was just one of those, and it wasn't like, well, every day's a good day because the Lord made it. That's true too, but it was just a genuinely good day. Everybody hit the hay early tonight, and so for those viewing right now, you'll notice that there's a bit of a discrepancy. We normally film quite late at night, and but once in a while you get a really just finicky type of guest who just no. Bill had asked if we could film it. No, it was great because I got a message from him, and it was just, please, for the love of all that is holy, can we please film earlier this one time? So we did. So
thank you.
My family is all in bed. They're all asleep. Everybody was asleep
Praise the
early,
Lord.
and so
Well,
yeah, it's
Nick,
all
you
good.
guys kept me up till like 1 a.m. The
We
first
did
time I was on.
first and
But
second.
again,
The
awesome.
second,
I just, yeah, that's true. The second probably went longer.
which by the way,
But
and then we'll move on to things. But
yes, yeah.
the episode that we did last with you, where we just told our funniest stories, I recently got a message from somebody saying, "Hey, just wanted you to know I was having a really rough day." And she kind of explained it, some real issues, real stress. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
I randomly put on one of your episodes, and it was the one with Bill Donaghy, and you guys were just telling stories. And she said she was just laughing and laughing, and it brought so much joy.
That's
I was like,
great.
"Hey, that's good." So we did a one-off episode, and it brought joy to somebody. So that's good.
See, if one person laughs, it's all worth it. It's like the 99, but if one person laughs, that's
If
all.
one person chuckles. Okay, so I have the background on here. I think everybody can see
Which I
because of
love.
Tolkien and because
Mhm.
I love Tolkien and I have been impacted by Tolkien, but I don't think I know I am nowhere near the Bill Donaghy level. But I
Oh,
before we get into, because I put it in the title and I wanted to talk about it, but
mhm.
I also wanted to tell people at home when it came to Christmas time this year. I know I mentioned on a couple episodes that I was looking for the pipe tobacco that my great grandpa smoked, and it was this stuff here, the Captain Black cherry. It
Yes.
even not smoked, it smells like my great grandpa that I met. Turns out I only met him a couple of times ever, and I still like it was very impactful, and so much of it was just that cool odor, and he was a joyous man.
Wow.
So
Wow.
in talking with Bill, who was a part of a pipe club, I was telling him, like, for Christmas, that's all I'm going to ask for is a pipe. And he, through many suggestions, he suggested this website, and it's these pipes that are made in Ireland. And so I had to, I don't know if I did already, but I wanted to showcase the one that I ended up with. I wanted a black one. So
Gorgeous.
this is the dude, and it's, I love it. And then as a cherry on top, I was sent by my friend Bill. Will you explain this company?
Yes.
And
So Tinderbox, yeah. And that's Fra Angelico. That's one of my favorites. And in the Pipe Club, we have a wonderful bunch of probably a dozen guys. And there's a priest who's just wonderful. He's an exorcist, bagpiper, rugby player, whiskey
really?
expert, priest. And he loves Fra Angelico. So that's one of his favorites too. So Tinderbox, there's a few of them. It's kind of a chain, I guess. But there's one about 25 minutes away from me, and a lot of beautiful custom blends. And whenever I go, I just like stock up, and they give you little Ziplocs with the freshness in there. So yeah, I shipped it off to International Falls,
and it
and they
made
give you
it.
the goods. Awesome. Yeah, it took
And I
6
will
months.
say, I have no
Just kidding.
palate, so I the cherry thing has all that memory and the aesthetic. But then
Right.
recently, I've just been forcing myself to sort of enjoy this, and I will say, like, you start to notice, you can notice a difference in taste and aroma and stuff that people get all really into. And I don't have a very discriminating or discerning palate of any kind, but I'm
Yeah.
starting to understand.
I'll tell you
Do
what,
you have any
Nick,
pipes in the room?
yeah, I do. I
Oh,
have my
go
Peterson right here. I have 6 more upstairs.
ahead.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah.
But this is my Peter. This is probably my biggest Peterson. It's just a big, just like golf ball of a bowl,
It
and I
reminds me
love
of like one of those B-29 bombers. Like it's
it. Yeah, it's got a great big bowl, which I like, so I can pack a lot in there, and it's got that signature Peterson sort of lip here that you can rest on. So I like that you can kind of rest in here, and your gub, or in the Irish.
your
And
gub.
so that's my Peterson here. Um, yeah, pipe smoking is. How long have I been smoking? I've only been smoking probably 10 years or so. But it is an art. Sometimes you got to slow down. If you smoke too fast, you burn it, and it gets ashy. You smoke too slow, you got to keep relighting it. But sometimes it's just like this graced moment comes where you get like a really good smoke, and you really taste it and you really smell it. Sometimes the blessing is for everybody else. The secondhand smoke smells
Yeah.
delish from a pipe.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? But I like the ritual. I like crushing and like rubbing it up in my palm, packing it. that smell, and just the sitting back and letting it just necessitates contemplation, right? You're just like, and now I shall sit here for 15 minutes.
And it makes you want to just start going like, goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Like,
you start doing
try to
accents.
check.
But
Yeah, you have to.
I really enjoy it. It lends itself to contemplation. I've gotten really good at smoke rings. I haven't blown
Have
too
you
many in my
really?
life,
Are
but
you kidding?
yeah, oh my gosh, it's so exciting when you get one. The conditions have to be just right. Like, it's got to be kind of a slightly moist day, no wind, a good bowl, and it's just one time I blew a smoke ring, literally formed into a heart shape,
No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
drifted up to the. I have a witness, my daughter Claire. It was a heart. I'm not making that
So
up.
the day that you can blow a pirate ship that kind of floats through the air, then you can come back on the show again.
Yeah,
Just
like a three-masted schooner.
Yep, yep. You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking.
I do.
I guess so we can. Who's the guy you sent me a link and I watched a bunch of his stuff. I think he's an Anglican but he was a priest. He's British and
Oh,
he
Malcolm
smokes
Guite. Yeah.
Malcolm Guite. How do you spell his name
Malcolm,
for those at
yeah,
home?
I think it's Guite. We should look that up. He is a phenomenal, oh gosh, he's like a literary genius, connoisseur, pipe smoker, Anglican priest, who has been doing since the pandemic. Yeah, that's him, Malcolm Guite. Oh my gosh, Guite.
Okay.
He's just this. He's like a hobbit, literally. And
He
during
is.
the
He is.
pandemic, he's got somebody, an associate or a friend, who like comes into his office, with a camera, and he's just like, "Oh, come on in," and he starts reading T.S. Eliot or Tolkien, lights up a pipe, has a drink, and it's like you're sitting in his den with him. Malcolm Guite. I strongly recommend people to look him up. He's a beautiful soul.
I am going to just do a screen share of his YouTube. Here we go. Let's see. I think if I go over here and click share,
it'll be worth it. Malcolm Guite.
Oh, share screen. There we go. Let's see.
I forget who introduced me to him.
Malcolm Guite. There we go.
Great. And he'll just read Hopkins poetry, and he'll just do stuff. There he is. Look at him. There he is. He's
look at that guy. Just look at. He's moving.
And he's the real deal. And his office is disgusting. His books everywhere, and paper and clutter, and it just lights up his pipe and smoke. I love it.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's just like the real deal. He's just this dude. It's not a fake beard. So, yeah, that's cool.
So he's in England, and can we start diving into Tolkien?
Yeah, please.
Well, I mean, okay. So yeah. I'm so excited to talk about this tonight, and I love your Middle Earth map in the background there, Nick. Both of us love Lord of the Rings. I can share my first touch with all that later. I don't know if we're waiting for Kevin for that or not, but
no, just dive in. He'll join when he joins.
Okay, so Malcolm Guite, I got to find out where he is, because we're planning. This is the big thing. Like the Institute, I help to create new courses also, as well as teaching theology of the body. This July, I'm teaching the writings of John Paul II on gender, marriage, and family. Been doing that course. I do this Way of Beauty course on theology of the body and art. But I got permission to build a new course on C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, a 5-day immersive retreat. I know, dude. I know. And you're like, do I go to Cambodia with my family, or do I stay?
I would give up missionary work to go to that. You guys go on without me.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's still shifting. We have to nail down the dates, but it looks like next year now will be a pilgrimage to England, and to visit the places, Oxford, and the places where Tolkien and C.S. Lewis wrote and lived and taught and worked. And I gotta find Malcolm Guite. I gotta make him a stop on the pilgrimage. But and then so this should be next late summer, next late fall should be the 5-day immersive course in Tolkien and C.S. Lewis's writing. So it's going to be something like, the course will be called something like The Sacramental Stories of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. Because they're just, and this is what we're going to talk about, right? We're going to dive in and talk about these guys, like who, by the way, have just rocked the world for, how many decades at this point, with imagination and worlds of incredible detail and beauty and terror and, and joy and sorrow. and have touched like hundreds of and millions of people and been translated into dozens of languages, and who were deeply Catholic and Christian men, like who loved God. Like, so bringing these, to be able to do a course that dives into these men, their amazing imaginations and their mythologies that they created, but how they like, why did they do this, and what were they sharing? Not just the love of story, which is what they did. They loved story. They weren't shoving religion down somebody's throat. But they saw sacramentally. They saw the world as supercharged with God, with his presence, and with this whole spiritual warfare that's going on in this fallen world. So I cannot wait to open up this course. So at this point, I'm eating up every book on C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, which, by the way, is like 485 books. And
holy cow,
constantly new literature is constantly coming out, Nick, on Tolkien or Lewis, like constantly new books.
Have you found, like, it's tough to say the one, but have you found like a top in the top 3 books that have just you've read, especially about Tolkien, that you've read and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's the definitive for me anyway?
Actually, yeah. Well, I feel like there's 2 right now that are competing. Can I throw something in the chat for anybody who's popping in for this?
You can do whatever you want to do, Bill.
I'll do whatever I want to do. Be what you want to be.
Yeah, you do that. Okay, you just toss it out there. You tosser. That's what you are. You're a tosser.
What tosser? Sanctifying. I can't spell. Sanctifying Myth by Brett. I don't think I spelled Berzer right. This guy is a wonderful. That's not how you spell Berzer. He's an academic who. Is that how you spell it? Well, people can figure it out. Sanctifying Myth by Brad Berzer is a great introduction to the worldview of Tolkien, and from a personal experience. Like Brad, when he was young, like myself, experienced Tolkien's world, read Lord of the Rings, and Sanctifying Myth is a great book. Peter Kraft, there's a million books, but Peter Kraft.
Peter Kraft?
Oh my gosh, I have stories to tell.
Peter Kraft writes about Tolkien?
Oh my word, stand by. I have stories. The Philosophy of Tolkien. I just put in the chat. The Philosophy of Tolkien by Peter Kraft is excellent also. So so if your listeners, like viewers rather, or both, Dr. Peter Kraft is a philosophy teacher at Boston College for the last like 45, 50 years practically. And he is phenomenal apologist, Catholic writer. He's a huge, he's a surfer. He's massive Lord. He surfs. Even into his 70s, he was still surfing. Yeah.
No way.
Which is nuts, because he lives outside of Boston. But he wrote a book called I Surf, Therefore I Am.
Did he really?
Yes. It's the weirdest. All his books are amazing. And then there's like this one with a hot pink cover with a surfer guy on it. And it's like Peter Kraft, I Surf, Therefore I Am. I was like, is this really? And it is him. But he's a massive Lord of the Rings. Oh, he loves Lord of the Rings. Huh. And he taught a course for our institute. I got to drive him to the airport. I had him in the car for an hour and a half. I had him in my car, Dr. Peter Kraft, and we talked about everything. But he loves Lord of the Rings. Father Timothy Gallagher, if your listeners know him, he is a huge Lord of the Rings fan and has a podcast at Discerning Hearts, I believe it's called. A whole retreat on the Lord of the Rings, a spiritual retreat on Lord of the Rings. Father Timothy Gallagher.
So this is interesting. So I'm putting it into the open chat right now so people can see it. This will disappear after the episode is done. So just take notes for what he's saying.
Radio. Okay.
Somebody asked, Bill, is I Surf, Therefore I Am heady and dense?
No, it is. It is the weirdest. It is like the most un-Peter Kraft book he's ever written. No, it's not heady and dense. I mean, he'll certainly, Peter Kraft certainly goes there. He can't help it because he is intense. But no, just it's fun. I mean, he talks about waves and the ocean and the mysticism of it all. No, you'll enjoy it. And it's brief read, but yeah, have fun.
And the person responded, "Praise God."
I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So Nick, I don't know what you want me to do. You want me to talk about my first experience of Tolkien when I was a wee lad?
Start it. Just go.
By the way, I'm wearing his shirt on purpose here. Not all those who wander are lost. Great quote from Tolkien.
Can we pause?
Yeah. Pause away.
I had that as a bumper. So the guy I won't hijack you. The guy who got me into Tolkien,
Hmm?
he won't be watching tonight, but he's my most enduring friend, the friend that I've had the longest in
Mm,
my life. Um,
mm,
and he was really into Lord of the Rings. We waited to see every movie together in the whatever theater when it came out. I mean, we were in all parts
yeah.
of the world and we would wait to try to work it out. Anyway,
Wow.
he had that on his car and he was authentic. In high school, I wasn't. I'm the worst version of myself. And
Mm.
I bought the bumper sticker because I thought it was, oh, that's cool. And I remember him being angry with me for having bought the same bumper sticker because my
Oh.
79 Buick Regal had
Ooh.
not all who wander are lost on it. And I remember him commenting like, dude, that's my bumper sticker. Like you're just driving it all over. Anyway, total side note.
Aw,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
sad. That's a sad story there. Was
Sad
there
story.
redemption in the end? Was there redemption in the end?
The
Was there a healing in the end
the
with your
verdict is
friend?
still out, man.
Oh, wow. All right, let's all pray for that right now. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. I mean, we will pray
God.
later, but anyway.
Yeah.
So my first touch with Tolkien, I was probably 15. So this is back in the 80s, from whence all good things come. And I was at my grandmother Nellie's house, my grandpa and grandma, as I, aforementioned, the Scotch-Irish part of the paternal side. And my dad is the oldest of 10. So my grandparents had 10 kids after they came across the Atlantic, right? And I'm upstairs in like the, I guess, guest room at one point. All the kids kind of pretty much moved out. I'm 15. I'm at my grandparents' house. I go into this little guest room. Nick, I can still picture the like yellowed curtains, sunlight coming through. I open the closet, that cedar smell comes out, and there's a stack of weathered books, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. And it was the Ballantine version, I think, which had gorgeous art on it. And I found the covers. I still have those covers. I still have images of them. And I'm probably 15 or so, 16, maybe 15, probably. And I crack open these weathered books because my aunts and uncles, my dad's siblings, had torn through them in the 70s. Because that's when the Tolkien explosion happened here in the States, right? So Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. It was first published in 1954, 55. But in the 60s, 70s was the explosion here. I mean, people were like, Gandalf for president, Frodo lives,
No way.
graffiti, literally graffiti under bridges. It was nuts. Like the hippies embraced the Shire, much to Tolkien's chagrin, by the way. Tolkien was just like, he would get fan mail and he was just like, oh, what is happening over there?
That's
Crazy
awesome.
Yankees. The Yanks have lost it. But anyway, so it's like 1986 or whatever. I'm looking at these books and the maps and the smell of the old book, and the cedar closet and the sunbeam coming in. And I just was like, wow. So I started reading as a teenager, got halfway through Two Towers. So Tolkien wrote it as one book, Lord of the Rings, but because of constraints with publishing of paper post World War II, like they wanted him to make it 3 different books. So he wrote Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. I made it halfway through the Two Towers and I couldn't do it. I felt like I was on my way to Mordor. I was exhausted. Tolkien's writing was so detailed and so intense. I felt like I was in purgatory and I stopped.
Really?
I literally did. Later on, fast forward, I think somewhere in college, late 80s, early 90s maybe, I pick it up again. I make my way through it. I'm like, wow, this is a whole world. What's happening? I make it halfway through Two Towers. I can't go any further. I can't do it. Frodo, go on without me. I don't know. There's something about
is it because the reading was too laborious or
it was so
deeper?
So detailed and so, I mean,
Yeah.
Tolkien's writing now at this point, I can't stop reading it. I'm constantly reading
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings at this point.
Yeah.
But he gets you to just feel it. You're in it, as you're traveling with them. So I finally finished the entire trilogy probably in 99 or 2000. So right before the films came out.
Okay.
And I remember distinctly, I'm in a movie theater. Rebecca and I were dating. So it must have been late 2000, 2001. Probably late 2000, maybe the winter. where Rebecca and I are dating. We go out to the movies, and I see the trailer for The Lord of the Rings. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I can still remember the moment, Nick. I see like this, it was New Zealand, the snow-capped mountains, and I see the Fellowship come over the ridge. And I'm sitting in the movie theater, I'm like, holy crap. And Rebecca is like, are you okay? Are you all right? And I'm like, this is the Lord of the Rings. They're making a movie. I lost my mind. So Rebecca and I saw The Fellowship of the Ring when we were dating. When Two Towers came out the next year, we were engaged, and Return of the King came out, and we were married.
No way.
I mean, that's nerdy. That's nerdy, but that's how we did it. We were dating, and I remember reading. We were at Valley Forge Park. I was up in a tree. She was lying on a blanket under the tree as we're dating in the summertime, and I'm reading selections from Lord of the Rings to my wife.
No, you weren't.
My future wife. Dude, I am uber nerd with this.
But so is she, apparently, or uber patient.
Oh yeah. Well, let's get her on. But no, she loves it. She loves a good story. She loves it now. And she just one of her great lines that she always quotes, I am no man. The Eowyn thing. She's just like, she loves it. And now our kids are, infected. I read Lord of the Rings to my oldest son, who's 13 now. I started reading when he was 7. I read the entire Lord of the Rings to him every night for about 2.5 years. Didn't skip a single thing. He was engaged. I read the whole thing to my daughter, Claire, who's now 11. We finished last year, I guess. Yeah.
So do you know Rod Dreher, the Live Not by Lies? Have you heard of his book?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So,
yeah.
So there's that chapter in there where they talks about that family, whatever nation they were in, but how that was the story that they read because they knew that Mordor was real, but they also wanted. Oh, I lost Bill. Bill was moving around too much, and he. Well, good night, everybody. It's been really cool to have you. I'm just gonna keep talking. He'll be right back on. There he is.
Oh my gosh. You said Mordor and I just dropped off.
It's because you're antsy, man. You're messing with your laptop. You're moving all around.
I think there's a dark spirit right now that's trying to stop. As you said, Mordor, the black speech, which
need not be uttered here.
That's right.
There's a guy on TikTok who he breaks down why each character in the movies even pronounces like Mordor, and then some of them just say Mordor. Like there's reasons that they do it. Like it's not just like poor acting and overacting. There's reasons that they each do it. Each character. Oh man, it's so good. Yeah. I'll get it for you. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, just the fact that I've always loved them, but then during lockdown, we started really like you can tell by any of our videos on our channel, like we went really and my wife nerded out, and so I was like, okay, then it's freedom to nerd out, and so we have full costumes, like we have all of the stuff. I love it. But one of the things was that chapter in Live Not by Lies where he talked about how that's what their parents did. They read multiple times. They read through the Lord of the Rings.
Oh my gosh!
Because they knew that Mordor was real, but they also wanted them to know that that it was that they would win. And also though they pointed out how everybody people who don't know, they criticize that when when it's all said and done and they drop the ring in and they're all okay, that there's still like 60 more years of writing that Tolkien did, and that was on purpose. That life still goes on even after like the great tragedy, and but you have to still go home and scourge the Shire, and you have to like it all keeps going on, and how they wanted their kids to be ready after, because they knew the evil was coming, but that they wanted to be ready, the kids to be ready after the evil came and know what to do then. I'm like, man, that's so big. So we've been immersing our kids in it as well.
Anyway, I want to just echo what you just brought up there, and to anybody viewing right now, like Rod Dreher's book Live Not by Lies,
it's so good,
is almost like essential reading at this point, as the culture continues to tank. And so that family, I forget their name as well, but I think they lived in like former Yugoslavia or something. But
it was Yugoslavia or Czechoslovakia, one of the two.
Yeah, they read, the family who had like 8 children, they read Lord of the Rings 6 times to their kids over the years. And again, it was to equip them. And they said, this is the rebellion. This is our resistance. And which makes sense when you think about St. John Paul II's life, when the Nazis come in and then the communists come in, they're targeting culture, they're targeting academics, they're targeting, literature that ground the family. And, Tolkien's stories, they are the resistance because it's all about the Shire and the family. And it all comes back to that. And this is what the evil one is constantly attacking, the family. There's right now in the world, there's, my friend Father Patrick Schultz from Cleveland, he says there's a Shire hatred out there. The orcs are still alive and well. It's a Shire hatred, a hatred of this, free, untouched place where the principle of subsidiarity can be lived out. We trust that you'll, you make your decisions, you govern yourselves and do it in peace and prosperity. And it's full of life and greenery and good food. And there's not a lot of intervention from, outside governmental forces. And, there's no Sauron. It's like the Shire, and trust it. And oh my gosh, that book is so good. But yeah, I loved the fact that they read that book as not just fantasy escape. This is the thing. It's not escapism. The Lord of the Rings is not escapism.
Yeah, go.
Unless as Tolkien himself said in an interview, Tolkien said this. He says, well, if it is an escape, it's more like a prisoner escaping from his prison bars.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a return to the real. I mean, it's a rediscovery of reality. When you read Lord of the Rings, you come back out into the real world, rekindled and refreshed at, wow, tree and leaf and branch and flower and stream and person. Wow, I appreciate this all the more by being immersed in the myth. I come back to reality with more gratitude every time I read it.
Because so in the midst of tough times, like this family who's reading the Lord of the Rings when there's totalitarian overthrow and whatnot, you would say the knee jerk is to be like, well, you read the Bible to them, and yes, absolutely, drill that into your children. But it's so interesting how what Tolkien did in a certain sense was we have the scriptures and you can learn about contextually, what was Paul saying to these people? What was their culture like? That's all true. Mm-hmm. But then Lord of the Rings is sort of like the incarnation of that. This is a full story of lived out, human history, sin, triumph, redemption, all of it. And that's what he was in a sense trying to do. Not shove religion in their throat, but to show, I don't know. There's something so holy about it. It's so good, man.
Yeah, I know of a Carmelite nun, Sister Magdalene, who got permission from her Mother Superior to read the Lord of the Rings as spiritual reading.
Really?
Yes. She's a Carmelite cloistered nun who reads this for spiritual reading. And she wrote a beautiful letter. I should grab it, but to read an excerpt to you. She wrote a beautiful letter to a priest friend of mine, and she said, I love that you love it, Father, because it's not an epic of fantasy. It's an epic of virtue with so many lessons that we need to learn. Okay, this is a Carmelite nun. Yeah, saying that there's more here than just some sort of escapism into dragons and wizards and elves. There's something going on that we need to know. And I just saw Haley's comment, by the way. Speaking of Russia just invaded Ukraine, which we've been hearing ad nauseum, but now interesting conversation tonight. This is the resistance. This is not escapism. This is the antidote. The virtue, the valor, the courage, right? The long haul, the fellowship, sticking together. That's what it's all about. Through the purgative way, through the death to self. I mean, think about all the characters in Lord of the Rings, Nick, who go through a kind of crucifixion. Frodo, Sam, Gandalf, Aragorn, they all go through crucifixions. Even Boromir's sacrifice, right? He falls, but then he goes back and lives his masculinity as a gift of self. He lays down his life to save Merry and Pippin. It's all Christological. All of it.
And it's so funny because Boromir is so bashed, but I mean, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friends. Yep. And so in the end, here's this, I mean, he was a flawed character, but he's probably closer to what we all are in the end.
We can identify with him, best intentions, but
Yeah.
Yeah, not trusting it
Hey,
enough.
so ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome to the stream, Kevin.
Shut up.
Hey, man.
I mean, where you been, son? Where you been?
Ooh.
All the good stuff's done. Now we're just going to talk about like mopping the kitchen floor. Like we're just.
What I really want to know is what you think about the new Ring of Power shit that just came out.
Kevin, why do you got to be so
That's coming
Kevin?
out. That's
just
coming
brought
out.
just brought a fresh stream of conversation into it.
When Kevin joins, not only is there new topics, but you can also swear, apparently. So,
oh wow,
not till I'm here.
You have like a
friends.
beep feature, like a beep beep.
Oh no!
By the
it's
way,
live. So
you're bringing a fresh angle. By the way, I like your hair. It looked different than the last time I saw you. You look like you've really been intentional about
I'm gonna tell my wife that. Do you know what this is, Bill? This is the show where we're very honest with each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a number of days of not showering. This is
oof. Okay.
and not styling. This is just what happened, and me doing this.
So it's
we have a thing at the Theology of the Body Institute where we say TOB or TMI. That may be TMI, but that's okay. We are what we are. Before
I love it. Kevin's like, listen, I'm on day 5. I smell, but if I put a sport coat on and run my fingers up through the hair.
Oh yeah, you're not supposed to shampoo every day. You're supposed to shampoo like every other day. You're not supposed to wash your hair with stuff every day.
Or though, not at all. I've seen all those videos that if you stop shampooing, that your hair goes really awesome after about a month.
Isn't that called dreadlocks?
I have anecdotal evidence of this. I had a friend in my at my climbing gym. She worked there with me, and one day she said, I haven't washed my hair in 7 months. And I went, wait a minute, tell me more about this. And she said, no, it's real. She said, for the first couple of weeks, I just was doing this all of the time. Your head just itches and itches and itches. And she said, then you know what? It just equalized.
Yeah.
I said, wait, you don't I said, how many times have you washed your hair actually in the last month? She said, I've washed it maybe once in the last month, and maybe 2 times I've jumped in Lake Superior just to go for a swim. I went, and her hair, you guys, her hair was at least halfway down her back. And it was moderately curly. It wasn't like your normal, like, hey, I have thin, straight hair. And it was incredibly soft, had no odor. There was no oiliness to it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
We were just talking. No, we weren't talking about any of this. You just brought in such fresh content.
Yeah,
you just brought it's like a whole other episode right now. It's like
we'll divide it. We'll cut it at this. Kevin, what are you drinking today?
Well, nothing, because I looked to see what I had to pour, and the answer was I didn't have anything.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Supply chain issues.
Supply chain. All the scotch, all the bourbon, all the brandy was just gone.
You know what?
I wish I could hand this to Kevin. Nick got jealous when I shared my Isla single malt scotch. It's really good. Do you guys want to sniff the cap? Here, get a whiff of this. Here, sniff that. Oh,
smell-o-vision.
Right. Oh, that's right there. That's the stuff. I mean, it's like I'm standing on the heather.
Wait, Bill, where was this the last time we met with you? Did you buy this since then, or get it gifted, or what happened?
This is pretty fresh. Yeah, I sample it. I sample different Isla scotches, and I just watched a great documentary, by the way, called "Scotch: A Golden Dream."
Oh yeah,
Nick, have you seen it?
It's good.
It's great.
Yeah,
I put it on the
watched
Pipe Club chat. Yeah, I put it on the Pipe Club. That's right. It's great. I love the ending where they're talking about drinking scotch is almost like this nuptial union. You have to greet the scotch and hello, how are you? Good. And it's just like it's borderline like awkward, but amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of borderline awkward, have you guys talked about NFP at all tonight?
We haven't, because we we were still in the Tolkien stuff, but you're the
We did.
best at segues.
Yeah, you are. Well, first we got to talk about Rings of Power, the Amazon series that cost $1 billion.
Please do. Please do.
Okay, so let me just put my
Wait.
Peterson back in. We also talked about pipes, Kevin.
Oh my gosh,
ahead,
Bill!
Nick.
I asked for a pipe that you recommend for Christmas, and I didn't get it because I wanted to get into pipes.
Oh,
and
bummer.
that's all. Just say I don't have a pipe yet, but I want one.
You didn't get it. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Did you
I
do
got
something wrong?
everything I
Does your
needed.
wife love you? What happened? Does she
Yeah.
really?
She went above and beyond, and
Okay.
what
in other
happened
ways,
was
right?
I asked for above and beyond.
Okay.
And
Well,
she also had that baby, so there was.
Oh, there was a baby. Yeah.
babies can really mess up. Like, talk about supply chain issues. I mean, babies can just like throw a monkey wrench in it. Okay, so
Well, wait, just
what were
wait.
we just
I want to
talking about?
say,
Nick,
so
you had
we're
something.
gonna do the $1 billion Amazon series. So all I know is that across any of my feeds, and everything's an algorithm, so you only know what you know.
Mhm.
But so in the lead up, everything that came across was negative to me. Like people, obviously there was the mention of nudity, and people were like, "How dare you!" And the $1 billion, and then there's race issues, and some of them are valid, and some of them aren't. Blah blah blah. And then the trailer came out, and so we watched the trailer the other night. And because I had so much everything, I didn't know what to think of it. So we are just waiting for Bill Donaghy to weigh in definitively on what we should think about it.
No pressure.
No,
can I put a link? Can I put a link in the chat? I can't see a spot to put it in. I have an article.
I hope you can.
I can't get to the bottom of the. That's odd.
Can you put it in the private chat and I'll move it over?
Okay, there you go. That's a brilliant idea. Yes, I can do that. This is a mercatornet.com is a great news source from New Zealand, by the way, where they filmed the series, and Lord of the Rings was filmed there as well. The Kiwis, they're a spot on, as they say. So this is so Mercatornet is great. It's actually a Catholic news agency in New Zealand, and all their stuff is really solid and balanced. I love it. But they just had an article on this new series, Rings of Power, from Amazon, and it was good. It like laid it all out. So yeah, Jeff Bezos is apparently a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and a fan of rockets and stuff. I don't know. That's a whole other
phallic
rockets. I don't even understand. Like, I can't. Never mind. Like for 11 seconds in space, I can't go there. But anyway, there's a new series called Rings of Power, and it's based on the appendices after Lord of the Rings. Okay, you put the article up. Great. So this is like Tolkien's imagination, by the way, is just unbelievable. It's like no one can comprehend the amount, the volume, and the just organic outgrowth of just the worlds and languages that he created. He had so much to say that when he finished Lord of the Rings, he was like, "There's more," and he wrote appendices. By the way, if anybody's ever read Lord of the Rings and not read the appendices, you got to read the appendices. He tells you what happens to every character. What happened to Legolas? What happened to Gimli? It's fascinating, by the way, what they both did. It's amazing. Do you guys know what happened to Legolas and Gimli?
No.
Legolas
at one point in time, I did.
He built a ship and took the straight road to the Blessed Realm across the Western Sea. Legolas took Gimli the dwarf to the Blessed Realm, home of the Valar. The only dwarf to enter the Blessed Realm in the history of Middle-earth. Legolas and Gimli's friendship, he took him there. Like little facts, Sam was the mayor of the Shire like 7 times. He was reelected constantly. He had like 6 kids. You just find out what happened to Merry and Pippin and Aragorn. The death of Aragorn's recounted in the appendices. What happens to Arwen after his death? Like all these amazing little facts. Just Tolkien could not stop. He just kept going, but it's all bullet points. So he also alludes to all of the Lord of the Rings happens in what's called the Third Age of Middle Earth. So in the appendices, he says, well, here's the Second Age. And he gives like detailed bullet points of the Second Age, which, is thousands of years before Lord of the Rings. Do we know anybody there? Well, Galadriel and Elrond, they are elves who are like 4,000 years old. So Galadriel is going to be in the Rings of Power series. Elrond is in the Rings of Power series. And there's other characters. So it's going to be cool because it's the era of Middle Earth where these rings of power were made. Now, the Lord of the Rings starts off with, 9 rings for mortal men and 7 rings for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone. So we're like, what are these rings? The second age is like when those rings were made, how they corrupted the elves, the dwarves, the men. And so it's kind of cool. Sauron is going to be somehow present in the second age. He was sort of this angel of light for a while who was working with the elves and trying to, we didn't know it at the time, but manipulate them. And he makes the one ring to control them. So he's going to be this really interesting character, I'm sure, because he's sort of this Luciferian character. He appears good and a help to the elves, but he's corrupting them with the rings. That could be in this whole series. I mean, so there's a lot of potential.
I'm going to share a tab real quick. By no means like perfect, but is it up now? Can you see this?
The Nerd of the Rings.
So this guy, actually, his videos are amazing. It's an education on Tolkien and the Silmarillion and the Second Age, and it's all wonderful, wonderful stuff. And if you're not interested in Lord of the Rings, if you're like casual, it'll be boring to you. But if not, it's really good because it's some of the stuff I've listened to hours of it. It's some of the stuff Bill's talking about, just some of the background and who they all were and the different trials they went through. Judging by not just the buzz, but judging by the preview, then the trailer that dropped, what are you thinking? Do you have hopes? Do you have fears?
Yeah, I mean, personally, you're asking me right now, Nick, personally?
Yeah, yep. I am.
I feel like, I mean, there's always the danger. I mean, even when Peter Jackson was making the original trilogy, myself and some buddies who knew the books well, and I always tell people, read the books before you see the movies. Form your own imagination and own it. We were like, this could not, this could go awry. Peter Jackson did a good job with the trilogy. I think the casting was brilliant. The set and the feel, the texture of the films was really good. Narratively wise, if that's a word, narratively, Two Towers went off. Like Faramir was not by the book at all, but you're like, okay, but otherwise he did great. Peter Jackson's The Hobbit, that franchise was. Thank you, Kevin. Everybody look at Kevin's face. Yeah. That is what I felt when I watched The Hobbit. It was horrific.
Okay, so here's the thing. My friend and I, it was a religious moment. I was in the theater with him. We were seeing Zoolander, I think it was, and the preview started and the music started, and over the ridge steps Gandalf, and it was a whole other world. We both wet our pants. It was great. And so we religiously, we saw, and Kevin knows my buddy Michael, who we saw these movies, no matter what part of the world we were in, we saw them in the theater together. We saw the Fellowship, we saw the Two Towers, we saw the Return of the King, we saw the Hobbit 1, we saw the Hobbit 2, and then we quit in desperation and we refused. Like
good for you,
won't.
Lad.
Like we won't do it. Like actually, the family was getting ready to watch it recently, last year, sometime during one of the lockdowns. And I texted him. I'm like, dude, they want to watch it. And he's like, I release you. And I'm like, but I don't release myself. I'm not doing it. We're not. This is horrible crap. This is terrible.
It was.
But yeah,
it was like a video game. It was so embarrassing.
It was bad. So bad.
It was an embarrassing thing. I just Anyway, so that as a context for thoughts on Rings of Power, the Amazon series. I mean, you could say to yourself, okay, wow, they're putting $1 billion into this. This is going to be good. The story, the writing must be epic. But then you're like, but also Jeff Bezos put $1 trillion into a rocket that went into space for 11 seconds.
Yep.
So you might, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that, and I don't know, who's his creative team, who are his consultants, if they're Tolkien scholars with reputable names, and I haven't looked into it. Okay, good. I think Tom Shippey was involved. Tom Shippey was a biographer of Tolkien, but then I heard somehow he dropped off or was let go. So I'm like, I'm not a huge fan of him.
Can it possibly end up good, Bill? That's what I want.
Yes. No, it could. Right. It could. It's just
but what are the odds? Is it like
they can't?
Is it like 2-1? Is it like a 33% chance it's good, 67 crap?
I mean, can we do another episode after the first couple episodes air?
Oh, we're doing something.
Yes, we
I
can.
think I really have no idea. To me, it depends. I need to look into who are the consultants and the scholars, because
Okay.
that
Here's what
could
blows my
say
mind.
something.
Here's what
Yeah.
blows my mind, Bill. There are Tolkien scholars.
Mhm.
There are people who study a guy who wrote fantasy.
Yes.
There are Tolkien scholars. Tolkien made up this whole world that not only was it this whole world, he made appendices to this world.
Yep.
Because there was so much in his brain, he couldn't fit it all into stories. He just had to start mind dumping, and his footnotes, his crumpled up notes are now in appendices. My question for you, Bill, is why does it matter? Like, why does what he did even matter? Why is it even important? Or why is it worth dedicating your entire life to a fake world like Tolkien?
Well, you just assumed that it's a fake world. Let's open that up, Kevin.
So is my premise already wrong?
It's on like 2 legs. Do you ever have a table that had 2 legs, Kevin?
Yeah, I set this computer on one, and I got some books here.
Okay. Now, again, we can like whatever, but to Tolkien, he didn't say, and he was very honest about this. He said, I didn't invent Middle Earth, I discovered it. Now, you might think like, is this dude stable? Like, that sounds nuts. He said, where does my love for Middle Earth come from? My fascination with the real world. He's meticulous in his love of creation. He's a devout Catholic nearly his entire life. He got it. He was a daily communicant. He loved Jesus. You read his letters to his sons, Michael and Christopher. It's like spiritual direction. This guy there's been a cause for his canonization, actually, like brewing. Tolkien, a cause for canonization. So we're talking about an informed Catholic. We're talking about a scholar. We're talking about a man who helped translate the Jerusalem Bible. If you open up the Jerusalem Bible, Tolkien's one of the translators. So he knew scripture inside and out. Again, Oxford Don. So you can't so all that's on one side. You can't say and then he just in his free time, he just made up this whole weird world. That's so weird. It's inextricably linked. It's inextricably linked to everything. So again, I shared before you came on, Kevin, with Nick.
Yeah.
I know of a Carmelite nun and other dozens of people, at least in my own circles, who this Carmelite nun reads The Lord of the Rings as spiritual reading. She got permission from her mother superior to do that. Dr. Peter Kraft has written books on The Lord of the Rings. Father Timothy Gallagher has done 10-part series, a spiritual retreat on The Lord of the Rings. Father Timothy Gallagher, the Ignatian genius. And so there's something going on here. This is not escapism. This is a recovery of reality. And somehow through story and myth, Tolkien's intent was, there's no mythology in England. We have lost our soul. I feel called to write a new mythology for England. Why? Because mythic elements, poetry, this narrative epic adventure tells us who we are. Why are people obsessed with Marvel movies? Why do people weep? At Endgame, when I saw Endgame in the theater, people were crying. We crave story. We're made for it. And Tolkien has tapped into it as an informed Catholic in such a powerful way. So it means it's not irrelevant. It's not frivolous. Did you set me up, Kevin? Did you know all this? You knew this.
No. So Kevin, we can tie you in, because right before you came on, Tolkien himself said in an interview, what did he say?
Oh, this is not an escape, unless you mean a prisoner escaping through prison bars. So, in other words, we are living for 100 years now, and C.S. Lewis talks about this as well, under an oppressive secular humanism. We are living under a regime of scientific reductionism that has killed the transcendent, killed the symbolic, killed the transcendentals. And C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien said these are essential, not ornamental. Myth and story and transcendent truths, they're essential. And so they both wrote their stories to rekindle this sacramentality of reality. It wasn't just like in their free time. P.S. They didn't really have a lot of free time as Oxford dons. This is intentional. Lewis and Tolkien's writings were intentional.
And the crazy thing is, they did. They did like the Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia. Like they did ignite. Like they endured. Like they lasted out of that time period into. So like there's.
Oh my gosh.
Even the Chronicles of Narnia, like I've heard people comment, like I didn't even know it was a Christian book. I just know I loved the stories because they did it. They did what they were aiming at, which is so crazy on its own. Even
they infiltrated the soul, the heart. They went under the radar, and through imagination, which is a spiritual power and faculty of us, right? They went under the radar and just grabbed the heart. And people are like, I don't know why, but I'm so moved by this. This is, I mean, look at Jesus. Jesus used parable. Jesus used story. Jesus used narrative all the time. That's how he, like the torpedo under the radar of the reason and the intellect, boom, right to your heart. Yeah. And then it's like, oh my gosh, you're talking about me and my life right now. Whoa, I'm destroyed. That's what story does.
Well, and even that I don't remember what it was from. C.S. Lewis talked about how like it's important. Like kids already know that we tell stories about dragons, but children already know that dragons exist. They just need to learn that you can defeat them. Like that idea that like they already know. Was it Chesterton?
Yeah, Chesterton, I think. Chesterton.
Okay. Just that idea that I think all of those three guys coming out of that time period in world history, just wanting to like speak to the world, like, no, yeah, the dragon's real, evil's real, like death, pain, it's all real. But at the same time, it's not the end story. It's not, that they can be beat type thing. So yeah.
Actually, Nick, real quick, that's one of the, Tolkien coined this new word, so to speak. He called this like twist right at the end of a thing when all seems dark and lost, and there's suddenly this glimmer of hope and this like resurrection motif that comes in. He called it the eucatastrophe. The EU is the Greek for good, right? So a eucatastrophe is the crucifixion that 3 days later turns into resurrection. And it is like, I'm excited to think about that right now, because there seems like right now in the world and in American culture, we're in the crucifixion, right? And Canada, God bless Canada, is in the midst of a crucifixion. That's a whole other episode. But it's like at the last second, there could be this eucatastrophe moment. I mean, think about communism's chokehold. And without a single bullet fired, John Paul II's witness to solidarity and the dignity of the human person, communism collapsed. Eucatastrophe. Boom. Solidarity movement in Poland. Whoa, what the heck just happened? So yeah, there's great hope. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. Like this moment, God only knows.
Yeah. A friend of mine, her signature on her emails is a quote from Thomas More, or at least attributed to, that the times are never so bad that a good man can't live in them. Just that idea that like the world can't get so bad that somebody who is, who knows truth, who knows the way, the truth, and the life, can't live in it. Even if they're martyred, like Thomas More was, like you can still, have life to the fullest and until the moment that they end that. So yeah.
Apparently, I've heard that a great depiction of that in modern times is the movie A Hidden Life, which is the biography of an Austrian Catholic family who dissented from the World War II in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it, Kevin?
No, I've just heard about it, and it's been on my list
Amazing
for
film.
2 years
You
now.
got to watch it, guys. The
Jason and I watched it recently.
Terrence Malick's epic film. It's Franz Jägerstätter and his wife, whose name was Franzi, I think, so with a kind of same name.
Franz and Franzi?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I have the book upstairs. Their letters to each other. And yeah, I mean, he's beatified. Franz Jägerstätter was beatified by Pope Benedict XVI. Yeah, so it is this this hidden life, this witness to these transcendentals of truth, beauty, and goodness that the world cannot touch, that the evil one cannot touch if you hold fast to it. That, by the way, segues into the Lord of the Rings. Let's bring it back, boys. There's a moment when Frodo and Sam are making their way through Mordor, and if you read it, you remember this part. They're making their way through Mordor, which we're all making our way through Mordor right now. Hello. And it's just like desperation, darkness, exhaustion. And there's a moment where Frodo falls asleep under this rocky crag, and it's dark and smoky and ash. And Sam looks up. It's one of my favorite passages in the Lord of the Rings. Sam looks up and he sees above the cloud rack. He sees for a moment the clouds pass, and there's a star shining. And Sam looks up and he thinks to himself, there's beauty above that the shadow cannot touch. It is forever out of reach. And it shows me this shadow itself is but a passing thing and cannot hold on. And it gives like Sam this moment of like, all shall be well. All shall be well. It's so good. I remember reading that for the first time, and it's like, I got to put this book down for a second. Like, oh, and those are the moments when you're like, geez, this is not just a book. I mean, it's like Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm when he's fighting the Balrog. You shall not pass. I am a servant of the secret fire. Wielder of the flame of Arnor. You cannot pass. You're like, yeah. You're like, why am I so excited right now? Because he's standing up for something that is real and beyond human construction. It's the secret fire. Do you know what Tolkien said? The secret fire. When people read that, they're like, Gandalf is servant of the secret fire. What the
I've
heck
always
is that?
wanted to know, like, wait, what is that?
You
what
ready?
is he talking about?
Yeah, you're like a servant of the secret fire. That sounds kind of cool. Tolkien wrote in a letter to a Catholic priest friend of his. Tolkien said the secret fire is the Holy Spirit at the heart of being, the Holy Spirit present in every created reality. The secret fire is the Holy Spirit. Gandalf is a servant of the Spirit, that creator spirit that made all things. You can't touch it. You shall not pass. I'm just like, so that's good. The Catholic. That's the reality. Like, the devil can only twist and mess up what's been created already, but he can't. The whole project is going to fail. There's beauty forever beyond his reach. And that's, as Catholics, that's what we believe in. We hold fast to. Like, it's MC Hammer. You can't touch this. You know what I'm saying?
Can't touch this. You can't touch my golden hammer pants.
Nick was drinking at that moment when I quoted MC Hammer, and he's like,
yeah. Which brings it to Kevin, because Kevin is a huge fan of MC Hammer. I dance like him.
I did the MC Hammer rap with homemade MC Hammer pants in front of
so beautiful
1,000 people.
Yeah.
Oh man, is there footage of that? I need to see that. Anyway,
yeah, there is. It's
out there.
It's poor quality. It was 2009. It's bad.
Oh yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
But still so.
But anyway, do you see, like, this is so important? I feel like next year, by the way, is the 50th anniversary of Tolkien's death. It's 50 years since Tolkien's death. He died in 1973. And
that's interesting.
Yeah. And I told Nick before you jumped on, Kevin, that I'm building out a brand new course for the Theology of the Body Institute on C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, a 5-day immersive retreat. And we're pumped because it's going to be in the 50th anniversary year. And it all means something. Something's going on. Something's going on.
I was laughing because the release date of the Amazon series is September 2nd, and we fly to Cambodia. We move on September 5th, which,
oh my gosh, yeah,
Bill pointed out to me was that September 5th was the first time JP2 ever started talking about theology of the body.
Dude,
that's right. September 5th, 1979, he started teaching theology of the body from Rome. That's the day Nick is flying.
Boom.
Lord willing.
That's the thing that changed the course. I mean, it was Jesus, but the thing that changed the course of your marriage and your life, Nick, was theology of the body.
Oh, wow.
Hands down,
awesome.
With like unequivocally, the thing that changed. Well, I mean, saved me as a human, as a man, as a husband and a father. Like, 100% was when he started talking about that, and I was 1 year old at the time, but knowing what, so that said, then if we were trying to find some sort of segue out of Tolkien and into what we also put in the heading of the video as of NFP. A while back,
this will be interesting.
No, so well, JP2 talked about. I don't know if he ever mentioned Tolkien, but talked a lot about human sexuality. Kevin, do we go there, Kevin? Can we go there quick?
I segued into this about 15 minutes ago, you guys, and we got stuck back on Tolkien.
We had more we wanted to talk about. You came to the party late, dude.
I did, man, and that just makes me wonder if we should make this a separate episode. But continue with your question.
Well, I don't. Yeah, if
you could.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe we end on this and we bring it back around next time. Is that
maybe?
Well, you know what, Nick?
Go ahead, Bill.
No, I was going to say my buddy Damon Owens, who's just such a gift for the life of the church. He's an awesome, on fire Catholic husband and father, 8 kids, speaks with his wife Melanie on natural family planning and family spirituality. What if we kind of roped him in? P.S. He's also a Tolkien fan.
Is he really?
This could be like a part. It could be. Oh yeah, this could be a part 2.
Would you ask him to be on the show?
Let's go. Let's go.
Yes, sure. I will.
I love this. I love this because what I envision is Nick and I have talked extensively behind closed doors about being Catholic and natural family planning and human sexuality, and we both agree that there is much that is not out in the open in the church that needs to be.
Yeah.
And we also both agree that you can't just be talking about your sex life publicly with whoever's listening. So we're trying to find that balance of we need to be more, I don't like the word because it's too trendy. We need to be more real in our conversations in the church and start talking about the things that actually matter to people on the ground troops, rather than talking up here all the time. And one of those things, one of the maybe biggest things is sex. And being able to talk about that in a way that's not so bashful and puritanical, like Christopher West always encourages us to do.
Free, liberated, holy, and prudent. All, with reverence.
Because I've said for a long time, because I got since 2008, I've been speaking on theology of the body in one form or another all over. And
I know.
Wait, Nick. Wait. Bill, just so you know what Nick's about to say, I've heard these talks. The way Nick talks about theology of the body in public is like more the way I envision Catholics trying to talk about it in general. And he gets permission from his wife, and it just things are just kind of more out there. But
okay. I do get permission, mostly everything I've said, because it has been my opinion for a long time, and one out of 50 churches have let me do this, but it has been my opinion for a long time that there needs to be a deepening in the way we talk about theology of the body.
Yeah.
In the public square, in the public forum, a move from the concepts and the realities of it into the very, very nitty and gritty actualities. But in an actual, so for instance, I always use the example of John Paul II. Christopher West will often say the marital embrace, and that's fine. It's a thing, but I'm married and I have embraced my wife in public, but I have never in public. So one of my things is that we use terms that are like, okay, I get what you're saying, but we're not actually. Porn is way more to the point. This culture is way more to the point and gritty in their terminology. And so one of the things I wish, and Kevin and I have always strived to do, is with permission from our wives to speak into the actualities of it's a Tuesday night and you and your wife are interested in conversing about intercourse, what does that end up looking like when you're trying to be free, total, faithful, fruitful, when you're trying to be open to life, but you're also trying to look to the future and not be users, and like all of the things that actually go into it, it never gets talked about. I heard a guy once, and I can't say his name because I don't, he is a speaker, but he said to his daughters once, they were talking about, I think, yoga pants or leggings or some form of tight-fitting clothing.
At church, they were talking about it at church, right?
They were talking about during the communion, when I go to receive the Eucharist.
They were talking about it after church, but about them in church. Yes,
in church, and he was trying to tell his daughter, "Let me help you understand why I'm against certain dress, because when a person in front of me is going to receive the Lord." And there's a bow and a bend, I think about penetration. And his daughter was like, no, you don't. And he's like, that's what I'm trying to talk to you about. We don't get to talk about reality. We talk about aesthetics and concepts. And so for Kevin and I, we have been consistently trying to find ways to, with permission from our beloveds, to just to delve into when you're trying to live a holy Catholic life and you're embracing NFP and you're on board, how can you still become users of sex and how can you still use everything around you instead of being a gift? So that's one of the things we have been like, Kevin and I dance towards it, and then we don't have permission for that. And I think it's one of those things that will have to be pre-recorded, and then our wives watch it a bunch of times. But
no,
so Kevin,
I think it's certain. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, no, nothing.
Oh, I mean, it's certainly a project worth time and many words and unpacking, right? I mean, otherwise we stay in the sort of ethereal, intellectual, spiritual realm of principles, and there's a, we need to have the veil of prudence when we talk about things, but obviously with reverence, but but when our audience is sort of narrowed into, okay, guys, like I can talk in general ways to a general audience, but if I'm with a bunch of specific audience, it's like, okay, let's go here right now. And I think we need both. We need like the general, and then we need like the very specific.
Yeah.
And we have to do that. Otherwise, it's the whole thing of like, did anybody ever have a talk about God's glorious plan for your sexuality and your body with your parents when you were 13 years old? No. Nope, they just said, don't do it till you're married. Okay, that didn't serve me well at all. So we have to have these very detailed conversations as well. I think,
but the problem
I put in the chat, and just real quick, Nick, I just want to respond to the chat because I threw it in the chat and then you put it in there for anybody who might be viewing or later watch this recording. When you started talking about like who's getting into the nitty gritty, like is anybody like actually shooting from the hip, like, this is really hard, or this thing here. Simcha Fisher, the Ardbeg is kicking in. The Sinner's Guide to NFP. I mean, she is raw and real, talking about trying to live natural family planning spirituality, and that's a good book. That's not really, like sort of like gilded over and overly spiritual. She's like, it's hard. Sometimes it really sucks, but I believe it, and I'm going to practice it with my husband. But this is what I feel. That's a good book.
That's helpful. It seems like that should be required reading for seminarians.
Actually, it should. That's a great point, Kevin.
Because they can't possibly talk about it from the standpoint of a married couple, and rightly so. And most of them, maybe all of them, even those who know TOB really well, they don't know NFP.
Right.
And Nick and I have, we've tried to do this dance because we feel, Bill, like you said, we need both the general and the specific. We think that there is a largely underserved amount of people when it comes to learning the specifics and being educated in the specifics.
So for instance,
missed
tonight, I mean, our audience live is about 5 people, and then after the fact, about 200 people. not the same demographic, those 200 people that will watch, but
right.
Generally, you could say like, okay, well, the people who are going to talk ephemerally or aesthetically about it, they're of a a schooled type. They're the people who already know TOB, and they're gonna or they encounter TOB and they're like, oh, this sounds great, that's awesome. But if we, so Kevin and I, old-fashioned Catholics, if we had to wait until we got asked to give a specific talk to some 21-year-old males, then we could be gritty. Like, that's the problem right now, I think, is like the vague is out there, but it's so difficult, and there's such a lack of really blunt to the core talk about it just out in the public square, because people are afraid. They're like, well, what if my kid hears this? Yeah, but the national average, your kid's seen porn. I mean, your kid's watched porn already. They watched all forms of porn already.
It's
so
already
who are
in
we
their
going to
heads.
scandalize by being vocal? And so that has been our struggle. And I don't know if are we teasing an episode, or are we just in another episode?
Yeah, I was just thinking that to myself, Nick and Kevin. Like, I think we're already actually doing it right now. We could go much further, but let me just pop in.
Sure.
There's a link I just put in the private chat. If you could drop it in the comments, general comments. And then I saw we have a question to answer.
Oh yeah.
Christopher, my dear friend and colleague at the Institute, Christopher West, has written a book called The Good News About Sex and Marriage. And the good news about sex and marriage, we used to call it the purple book because it was purple, but now there's a revised edition, which brought in all kinds of like gender ideology and present struggles. The Good News About Sex and Marriage is a Q&A book. It's like the Q&A format. And if you want to talk about nitty gritty, it's in there. If you want to talk about like, any question about sex,
he mentions anal sex. So there you go.
Sex,
he talks about he answers a question about that. So it's very
exactly foreplay. How much? What do we do? So that came to mind as a resource. The Good News About Sex and Marriage. Make sure you get the revised edition. And yeah, I mean, again, we have to. John Paul II. When John Paul II wrote Love and Responsibility in 1960. Which was the seedbed for Theology of the Body, which he began writing in 1974, finished in 1979, and then translated it into Italian. It became Theology of the Body as we know it today. He wasn't just in a vacuum. He was talking to sexologists. Yeah. John Paul networked with everybody. He was always constantly in conversations with philosophers, psychologists, theologians, again, therapists, counselors, sexologists. So and also as a priest in confession, hearing men and women talk about their struggles in the realm of sexuality. So this is not pie in the sky theology. This is not some disembodied reflection that's overly idealistic. It's in there. It's in Love and Responsibility. It's in Theology of the Body. But I mean, we're trying to be, as an institute, Theology of the Body Institute, we're trying to be also a voice that meets 2022. Yeah. Like, okay, well, but give me the crisp, like, soundbite, like, what do I? So that's in the way we teach. That's in the Good News About Sex and Marriage book. That's a great resource. And now I don't know if you want me to answer the question here. That's from Stein 1.
Please do, Bill.
Okay. How do you bring topics such as this up with children without disturbing them with some of these concepts at a young age? Yeah. So Nick, you mentioned like talking to 21-year-old dudes about sex, because that's one audience, right? Okay, so to this question, how do you talk to tweens, 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds? How do you talk to 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds? I'll put another resource in Rua Woods. Rua, oops, that's not how you spell Rua. Rua is the Hebrew for breath of God. Rua Woods.
Can I make a preliminary answer before your much better answer to A Steiny? Steiny. So A Stein 1, the brief answer from a man in his 30s rather than a man in his 60s is that you don't necessarily always have to bring it up But more importantly, they will bring it up, and it's important that you don't dismiss it when they bring it up,
Yes.
because if they bring it up, that means they're not
Absolutely.
too young. So the answer
Uh-huh.
can never be you're too young to know that, or we'll
Yeah.
talk about it when
No.
you're older. There needs to be
Mm.
a way to find those age-appropriate answers when it's asked. For instance, my 7-year-old asking about something very explicitly the other day, and me knowing this fact and knowing that I had to give him an answer that was adequate and rooted in our Catholic reality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Nick, I just threw another link in for Real Woods. Did you see that?
Oh,
If
you
you
did?
want
No, I'll
to
get it. I'll
dump it
grab
in.
it now and toss it over.
So
And again, people watching after the fact, none of these links will be available. So say them out loud. Say them out loud, Bill, so that we
but you
can
can put them, can you put them in the footnotes, the end notes, or the notes for the
in the
episode?
description. Yeah, a better man could, and I won't. I'm too busy. Sorry.
Okay.
No,
Wow.
because all of the even our private chats will disappear, and I won't have any of
Okay.
this. And tomorrow
Okay.
morning is Thursday,
So
not Wednesday. So.
Ruah, RUAH Woods, Ruah Woods Press.com. They built out a curriculum, kindergarten through 12th grade. So you can start to answer the question in the chat. Answer the question of how do you start talking to young kids about this? Theology of the body, this meditation on human sexuality, right? God creating man and woman in his image and likeness, calling them to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, make communion, make love, make the invisible visible through the physical. The language for a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 9-year-old, gift. It's all gift. Your body is a gift. You are a gift. Everybody's a gift. Okay, that's essential. That's the watermark behind everything. Gift, not use, not like I use you so I feel good. You're a gift. I'm a gift for you. And then I say too to parents working with young children, and I do it with my kids. I have a 6, 9, 11, and 13-year-old. I get them out in creation as much as humanly possible. This is kind of circling back to Tolkien, right? And the fascination with the created world and sacramentality, right? If you're immersing your kids, unplugging them and getting them into the real world where you've got rain coming down and permeating the earth, seeds, maple seeds falling to the earth and hitting the soil, breaking open, seeds in Mother Earth breaking into new life. You're seeing the great dance. You're seeing with your own eyes initiation of a gift, reception of a gift, a new life coming out, death to self, receiving that gift and giving it back in life. This is what man and woman are doing in the sexual embrace. And if you're marinating in that for your whole young life until you're, 18, 19, 20 years old, you're like, this is the paradigm. This is the dance. This is creation, right? Day and night, sun and moon, land and sea, man and woman, giving, receiving. You're like,
It's so
whoa, this is creation. I'm part of this symphony of giving and receiving. That's how I make love.
it's
Then
crazy
it's not
because
foreign. Go ahead.
like
Yeah.
all of creation participates in that. And
Yeah.
then if they're aware of that, like you were saying, like unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, like that's
Yes.
and Jesus was talking about that. But then I always talk about in Spirit of the Liturgy, Ratzinger says
Yeah.
that I love it. It's one of my favorite parts. He talks
I
about
love
the
that part.
psalm, which is like the psalm is like one of the most boring parts of everybody's mass. Like and I have a whole bit, but it's boring. People check out. But Ratzinger says that during the psalm, when the psalmist reads out that first line, and then we spend our whole time trying to be like, okay, gotta remember, because I have to sing it back. What you're supposed to be doing is that word of God, that psalm of the Lord, is supposed
Yes.
to be given to you, and it lands
Here
on
and here.
fertile soil, and
Mhm.
it actually like gets taken into the soil. And while they're reading
Germinates.
the stanza, which we all check out during the stanza, is when it's like finding itself and finding life, so that when it comes time again, you're ready to sing it back, and it's already alive. It comes out of you like
Mhm.
a blooming flower. I'm like, holy cow, that changes the psalm forever for anybody at a boring
Yes.
mass. because it's a seed that's supposed to implant in you, and it's so real that and actual that in the time it takes to poorly sing a stanza, it's already alive and it comes back like that. So
Exactly.
it's
I love
everywhere.
it.
It's at the masses. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's what, I mean, C.S. Lewis in his space trilogy would call that the great dance. John Paul II
Yeah.
calls it the reciprocity of the gift. It's the giving and the receiving. It's in everything. It's in every human conversation. It's in every business transaction. It's everywhere. It's in the kiss of the husband and the wife. It's I initiate, I gift, and it's received and given back. And so we can start teaching this theology of the body. We can start teaching this. I mean, this is natural family planning in a way. It's the openness of this, like this coordinated offering, reception, and return without any obstruction, without any walls, without any contraception, which means literally against the beginning. Right? What's the beginning? Be fruitful and multiply. Make love, fill the world, make the invisible visible through the physical. Don't thwart that. And again, every level of human relationship and interaction, all the way up. Pause for a second here. I'm sorry, Canada. I'm obsessed with Canada for the last 3 weeks. If
You are.
Justin Trudeau, if Justin Trudeau would have received these thousands of truckers' pain and questions and stepped out and talked to them, there would have been fruition in life. But he contracepted that. He ran away. I will not talk to them. Dude, what are you doing? There can be no life. And so translating that to every kind of relationship and interaction that we have, if you're not open, you're closed. You become stoic, hardened. It's the heart of stone. It's the Pharisee. It's like utterly simple when you think about it. Like, dude, we have to be open. Ephatha, the Hebrew word, be open.
Yeah, be open.
So I can come in. If you're closed, we're done. He could work no miracle there, for they had no faith.
Yeah.
Dang it, that's the saddest line in all of Scripture. I'm in my hometown. Here I am. What can I do for you? Nothing. I don't want any. We're closed today. Oh my gosh, that's the saddest, most tragic line in Scripture. He could work no miracle
Well, and
there.
It bears out through all of creation. It bears out through everything. Every friendship you've ever had. If you're closed off to the person, it's done.
Gosh.
It's over. If you're in a workplace and you're closed off to that workplace, your fellow coworkers, but to your boss, it's done. It's going to be toxic.
Exactly.
If you're in a marriage and you're closed off to your spouse, that's the uncaring husband or the frigid wife. Like it's all the cliches in every relationship get borne out by either being closed or open.
Could work no miracle there, right? Gosh, I love how simple it is. And then now pause again, because I'm like, did I screw up with my wife today? Like, when I asked Rebecca how her day was, did I actually listen? Do I remember what she said?
Yeah.
Because if I don't, then I actually missed a chance for fruition, for some sort of bloom to come out of the soil, right? So it's amazing how it trickles down into every single relationship. I think being a saint is being awake and aware. Awake, not woke, right? Awake is big difference. Awake and aware of how this is it. This changes everything. The saints were awake. And so back to martyrdom, the blood of martyrs is the seed of Christians. This is how we flourish as a species. We flourish when we're willing to give ourselves, willing to be open and to be broken. And
I think someone needs to make a meme of the cross or any of the martyrs, and then just the old like Montel Jordan, like, this is how we do it. That should just be.
I love how we're coming back to like MC Hammer and like the Rats. Like,
always.
Yeah. This is how we do it.
Reasons to abstain from sex is you're avoiding conception
awake
of a child.
And aware, not woke and angry. Oh,
Word.
No, Kevin.
Jay Steiny Yeah, we do need to have more episodes on this because I wanna bring in Damon Owens. I think that would be awesome. And
Yeah, I've already teased that out. We're gonna get Damon. He's gonna love it.
we are because Bill, the thing that Nick and I have realized is that as Catholics, Catholics have become users of NFP. Like the language that Catholic groups even use to talk about NFP, all the various methods, it's okay, you can use these days, you can use this day. When you're TTA, when you're trying to avoid, you abstain these days and you use these days. It's like, oh wait, we're users. In this language, we're users of this method.
Yeah. So Damon will be a gift for this. He'll step right into that. Go ahead, Nick.
Sweet.
So no, I guess I shouldn't. If it's another episode, it's just so pertinent and real and timely within the last couple of days. Okay, so we should just self-regulate. Okay.
Yeah. Hit the pause button.
NFP mega show. Stay tuned.
So Bill, do you think you can get Damon Owens to be on the show? Do you think we can get?
Yes, I just have to, buy him lunch at Smash Burger, and he's in.
Oh,
he's obsessed with Smash Burger. So if I just get him, if I just buy him a burger there, he'll do it. Anything I want.
Follow up.
I can use and manipulate him
to get him on the show.
Is that a sexual euphemism? Smash?
No, not at all.
All right.
Oh, jeez. It's okay. Nick, continue making words out of your mouth.
Smashing. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
In order to have him on the show, do we have to film at 8 p.m. like with you, or can we just hold
like with
to
a
our
baby
normal,
or
like we normally?
No.
I mean, could he handle 9:30? Even though I wasn't here.
You guys, have I just lowered the bar? Did I really?
Yes,
lowered the bar.
because you're the only, other than Sister West Point, who was in Scotland at the time. We've never accommodated.
But in Scotland.
Well, here's the thing, though. We've never accommodated for another guest except for you. So I think that says something.
I'm privileged to be such a high rank. Listen, I don't
think that's what it means.
Appreciate it.
By the way, may I note to you that it's 12:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time? I think have I earned your good graces once again, lads?
Not yet. Till 1 a.m.
It is time. It is time.
If I remember correctly, recently Christopher West was on the show, right? And he stayed up way late in his underwear, sick as a dog. Stayed up late.
He was sick. I'll have you know he had a power nap before that. And I know that
he did.
He had a power nap of like 2 or 3 hours. Okay, I'm gonna get Damon.
Okay,
we're gonna have a he's gonna be here for you. I'm sure he will. Even if I have to pay him, he'll do it. And he'll be a great resource.
So as long as you pay him, it's fine. Then I won't go into any of it because I genuinely have pertinent conversation regarding in the last 72 hours. But I will hold off. And if you're sure we can get Damon Owens, then we'll just do that.
Yeah. I think
okay. So with that said,
yes,
Bill, you remember that we always make the guest close with the toast. It can be it doesn't have to be deep. By far, you have prayed the most during your toast as any human.
Have I?
Yeah, your toasts are always very prayerful. Kevin, what's that? What is that?
It's from my kids' play kitchen set. Right next to me.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's classic. Is there just imaginary drink in there? Is it?
Yes, Hook is one of my all-time top 5 favorite movies.
Hook.
Wow. Oh my gosh. By the way, that is an amazing film, Kevin.
Yes.
You know what?
It is a film that keeps on giving throughout the years. The more you watch it at different stages of life, the more it gives.
Are you serious?
And I've been begging Jacelyn to watch it recently, and she only remembers the food fight, and I keep telling her, hon, there's so much more to this movie, and
I have actually. Can we pause on the toast?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the peat of Scotland. That's the salty. Oh, that's everything.
Oh, I love it.
That's a great stuff. Anyway, I have literally taught. I show the video clip from Hook, where the Lost Boys gather around Robin Williams' old flabby accountant with the dress shirt, and the little kid grabs his face and it's like, "There
Toodles.
you are, Peter." Oh, because
So
it's like
good.
he's in there, and you just gotta get through the old wrinkles in the flab, and like, "There you are, Peter." Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, well, in that note,
Oh, that movie.
oh, that movie's great. The music is phenomenal. John Williams, right?
John Williams, one of the best.
He is.
John
May he live
Williams.
1,000 years. He's awesome. To John Williams,
Superman.
to the to the films that shaped us, rocked us, to those vignettes, those moments that are sacramental, that have destroyed us and make us weep, that bring us to ourselves. May we continue to be moved by the sacramentality of reality, be touched by all good things, all that is true, good, and beautiful, in everything we see, smell, taste, touch, including this scotch. Lord, you love the world, you love matter, you made it as a Jacob's ladder for us to climb up to you. We thank and praise you for this conversation tonight, dear God, for all that you've made for us. In Jesus' name we praise you. Amen. Sláinte.
Amen.
Melissa and Doug.
Whew, that's the holy fire right there.
Melissa and Doug.
Melissa
Kevin,
and Doug.
close us out, man.
Bring it home.
For those of you that stuck around with us, we're glad to have you. Marge, A. Stein, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, everybody else who joined. If you're checking out this video after our live stream, we have lots of other fun topics you can check out. Please stay tuned for our NFP mega show with Bill and other guests involved.
It's coming. It's coming.
See you next